Imagine the night. In one of the stone-walled towns of the Middle Ages, the sun has set, and silence has descended upon the narrow streets. Except for the dim glow of a few oil lamps flickering behind shuttered windows, darkness rules. In the distance, the church bell tolls 3 times, its sound heavy, echoing slowly across the rooftops. Then even that fades, leaving stillness behind. People have closed their doors, barred their windows, and sit quietly inside their homes. For in those days, the night was not merely a time for sleep. The night was also the time of the unknown. It was the time of magic, the time of mystery. For the people of the Middle Ages, dark magic was not simply a story. It was a shadow that lingered close, a whisper that moved with the wind. When crops failed, when cattle grew sick, when children burned with fevers that no healer could explain, the thought of witchcraft was never far. The evil eye, the muttered curse, the strange mark left on a door or carved into stone. These were seen not as imagination, but as reality. By day, the world seemed safer. The church bells rang, markets bustled, voices filled the air. But at night, when the world grew quiet, other possibilities stirred in the mind. People believed that hidden among the town's shadows were those who spoke secret words, those who kept books not filled with prayers, but with incantations. Books bound in leather, inked with strange signs, written in languages no priest could read. To own such a book was dangerous. To read from one was dangerous still. Yet whispers told of people who did. In dimly lit monasteries, scribes bent over parchment. Most copied sacred texts, writing slowly, carefully, their quills scratching across the page. But some believed that in the margins of those holy books, other symbols sometimes appeared. Tiny letters, strange diagrams, things that did not belong. A single figure drawn at the edge of a psalm, a star, a spiral, a name half hidden. Was it the mistake of a weary hand, or was it the trace of knowledge that had no place in the light? Imagine a monk working late into the night, a candle burning low, his fingers stained with ink. The walls around him are silent, his brothers sleep. Yet on his desk lies a book unlike the others. Its words are not Latin prayers. They are stranger, older, filled with symbols that seem alive. He does not read them aloud, he does not dare. He only copies, stroke by stroke, not knowing what the words might call forth. Such books, whispered about in taverns and cloisters alike, came to be called grimoires. Mysterious volumes of knowledge, half forbidden, half feared. Some said they contained the names of angels and demons, lists of spells to heal or to harm, instructions for summoning powers beyond the world of men. No one could say how many such books truly existed, but in the minds of the people, they were everywhere. In a chest under a nobleman's bed, in the satchel of a wondering scholar, in the locked cupboards of priests who would never speak of them. Outside, in the towns and villages, fear of such things grew. If a neighbor's cow died suddenly, suspicion arose. If a woman was seen gathering herbs at night, she was whispered about. If someone owned too many books, books not blessed by the church, questions were asked. The line between healer and witch was thin, fragile, shifting. One day, a woman's remedies could be praised, the next, the same herbs could condemn her as a servant of dark forces. The night deepens. Picture a small cottage at the edge of a village. The fire has burned low, casting long shadows across the walls. On a table lies a small book, its pages yellowed, its cover cracked. Its owner, a solitary man, opens it with trembling hands. He is no scholar, no monk, only a farmer who found the book hidden beneath the floorboards when he repaired his house. He does not understand its language, but the drawings inside, stars, circles, hands raised in strange gestures, fill him with both fear and fascination. He should burn it, he knows, but he cannot bring himself to. Something in the book seems alive, watching. So he closes it, hides it once more, and blows out the candle. The cottage returns to darkness. In the towns, whispers spread of larger collections hidden away, libraries of forbidden knowledge. The church condemned them, yet even bishops were rumored to possess such volumes, locked away where no one might see. The contradiction was never spoken of, but everyone understood. What was forbidden was also irresistible. The very act of banning such books made them more powerful in the imagination. Travelers told stories of books bound not in calfskin but in stranger hides, of ink that glowed faintly in the dark, of pages that seemed to change when read aloud. Perhaps these were only tales, growing larger with every retelling. Yet in the flickering light of a tavern, after wine had been poured, such tales were repeated again and again. Each listener half doubted, half believed. Each listener went home with the echo of the story in their minds. And so the Middle Ages were filled with both silence and whisper. A silence broken only by bells, by prayers, by the scratch of quills. A whisper that carried the fear of hidden words, hidden powers, hidden books. For the people of that time, the world was more than what could be seen. It was filled with forces, both holy and unholy, both visible and unseen. Now imagine yourself walking slowly through a dark monastery corridor. The air is cool, the stone walls damp. Candles flicker far away, but where you walk there is only shadow. You come to a door heavy and wooden. Behind it lies the library. Inside, shelves rise high, filled with manuscripts, some familiar, some unknown. You touch the spine of one, leather cracked, symbols pressed into its cover. You do not open it. You do not need to. Already in your imagination, the pages whisper. Already the silence of the room grows deeper, heavier. This was the heart of the Middle Ages, a mixture of devotion and fear, of prayer and suspicion. People sought light, yet they were drawn to shadows. They carried crosses around their necks, but feared the curse of a neighbor's glance. They built cathedrals, but whispered about witches. And always behind it all were the books, the strange, forbidden books that no one admitted to owning, yet everyone believed existed. Close your eyes now and let the image settle in your mind. A candle burning low, a monk bent over parchment, a strange symbol appearing where none should be. Outside, the town sleeps uneasily. The road is empty. The stars above are cold and still. The book remains open, its words silent, its meaning hidden. And in that silence, the night stretches on. The silence of the Middle Ages was never complete. Beneath the prayers, beneath the tolling bells, there was another sound, a whisper of suspicion. It moved slowly from door to door, from hearth to hearth, from village to village. People feared not only the darkness outside, but also the hidden darkness within their own communities. For at any moment, a neighbor might be accused of practicing dark magic. At any moment, a friend might be whispered about as a witch. Picture a narrow village lane, the earth damp beneath the feet of barefoot children. Smoke rises from chimneys, bread bakes in ovens, animals shift in their pens. Life seems ordinary. Yet one sudden misfortune could change everything. If a cow stopped giving milk, if a baby fell ill, if frost ruined the crops, people asked not only about the weather or the sickness, they asked who among them had called down the curse. Suspicion fell quickly, like a shadow stretching across the ground at sunset. The accused were often women. Some were healers, gathering herbs in the fields, mixing remedies in small clay pots. Their knowledge of plants, of roots, of teas was sometimes valued. But when fear rose, the same knowledge was seen as dangerous. A healer could become a witch overnight, her remedies transformed into poisons in the minds of her neighbors. And if she owned a book, any book at all, that was enough to deepen suspicion, for in those times books themselves carried a kind of mystery, and too much knowledge was seen as dangerous. Imagine a woman kneeling by her hearth, turning the pages of a small book filled with notes about herbs and healing. To her, it is not a book of magic. It is simply a record of what she has learned from her mother and her grandmother before her, which plants cure fevers, which ease pain, which help childbirth. But to others, the strange drawings of leaves, the careful lists of words, look like spells. The book whispers one story to her, but another to those who look upon it with fear. There were trials, long and slow. In dark halls under the watch of priests, accused men and women were questioned. Did they know the words of the devil? Did they write them down? Did they own a book of shadows? Often the answers did not matter. The suspicion alone was enough. The whisper was enough. And so the fear grew. not only of witches themselves, but of the written word. A book could be sacred, filled with prayers and psalms, but if it contained anything unknown, anything strange, it could be called dangerous. Picture a table in a cold chamber. A book lies upon it. Its leather cover is worn, its pages fragile. Priests stand around it, frowning, uncertain. Some of the words are Latin, but others are not. Strange symbols fill the margins, stars, circles, triangles, names no one dares speak aloud. The priests argue quietly. Is it the work of a scholar, or is it a grimoire, a book of spells? The answer is never clear, and so the book itself becomes an object of fear, locked away, hidden, whispered about. Travelers carried such books in secret. A wandering scholar moving from city to city might keep one hidden at the bottom of his satchel. He never showed it openly, for to be caught with such a book could mean ruin. Yet he opened it in the stillness of night, by the dim light of a candle, tracing the symbols with his finger, wondering what they meant. Perhaps they promised knowledge. Perhaps they promised power. Or perhaps they promised nothing but silence. Still, he kept it. For once one touched such a book, it was difficult to let it go. Imagine the scene. A lonely scholar sitting in a small rented room, the candle burning low, the shadows stretching along the walls. On the wooden table before him lies the forbidden book. He does not read it aloud, only lets his eyes wander across its pages. The words seem to shimmer, the ink catching the light in strange ways. He feels both fear and fascination. Outside, the street is silent. Only the quiet scratch of mice. Only the distant howl of a dog. Inside, the pages seem to breathe. He closes the book quickly, but its presence lingers, like a weight upon the air. Whispers spread, of rituals, of circles drawn on the ground, of words spoken at midnight. People feared that some used the grimoires not only to heal or to charm, but to summon, to call forth spirits, to command forces beyond human reach. Whether or not these things ever truly happened did not matter. What mattered was the belief, and belief itself was powerful. Now picture a small clearing in the woods. The trees rise tall and dark. The air is cool. The moonlight falls in silver patches on the earth. In the center, a circle has been drawn. A book lies open upon a rock, its pages weighed down by small stones so the wind will not close them. A figure kneels, whispering words softly. The forest listens, the night listens. The words fade into the air, but the silence afterward feels heavier than before. Was it truly magic, or was it only fear, only imagination? In the Middle Ages, no one could be certain, and so people clung more tightly to the church, to prayers, to the ringing of bells. But even within the church there was unease. Some priests themselves were rumored to keep forbidden books. They locked them away, never spoke of them, yet did not destroy them. For even those who condemned such knowledge could not completely turn away from it. The line between faith and fear was never straight. It curved, like smoke rising in the night. As time passed, the idea of the grimoire grew larger. Stories told of books so dangerous that a single glance at their pages could summon a demon. Others spoke of volumes that taught the reader how to command angels, how to find hidden treasure, how to heal without prayer. Perhaps these were only tales, but each telling gave the books more life. Each whisper made them more real. Now imagine yourself walking slowly through a medieval library. The shelves are high, the air smells of dust and ink. Most of the books are holy, filled with scriptures, sermons, psalms, but among them, perhaps one or two are different. Their spines are unmarked, their titles unknown. You reach out your hand, touch the leather. It is cool, dry. You pull it gently and it slides free. The pages inside are strange, the script unfamiliar. You do not understand it, yet you feel as though it understands you. You close the book quickly, heart steady but heavy, and place it back upon the shelf. You walk away. But you know you will never forget its weight in your hand. The night deepens. The fear of the people deepens with it. In cottages, in monasteries, in castles, the idea of dark magic lingers. It is not always seen, not always named, but it is there, in the back of every mind, in the pause before every prayer, in the silence of every midnight. It is the shadow of a book half hidden. It is the whisper of words that should not be spoken. And now, as you drift further into this story, your own breathing grows slower. The images of dim rooms, of candles burning low, of books resting silently upon tables surround you. You feel the stillness of the medieval night, heavy and calm. You hear the echo of the church bell, fading into silence. You imagine the closed doors, the locked shutters, the whispered fears. And slowly, gently, you sink deeper into rest. The night of the Middle Ages was full of silence, yet beneath that silence lay stories. Stories of books that were said to hold more than words, books that carried a weight beyond paper and ink. People whispered of such volumes in taverns, in monasteries, in castles. Each tale was uncertain, each detail blurred, but together they formed a world where books were not only read, they were feared, desired, imagined into something more. One such story told of a book that named every angel and every demon. They said it was written long ago, perhaps before Rome itself, perhaps in a language no man could fully understand. To know the names was to hold power, for in the Middle Ages, names were believed to bind. To speak the true name of a spirit was to summon it, to control it, or to banish it. And so the book was said to contain a list of names, stretching across endless pages, each one a key to the unseen. No one admitted to having seen it, yet everyone believed it might exist. Another tale spoke of a book that taught the art of invisibility. Not invisibility in the way of vanishing into thin air, but the invisibility of being unnoticed, unseen, forgotten in the crowd. A merchant told of a traveler who carried such a book, and though he passed through towns, no one remembered him. He bought bread, but the baker forgot his face. He drank at the tavern, but the innkeeper swore no stranger had come. He'd crossed entire provinces, yet left no trace behind. The book made him a shadow. When he was gone, even his story vanished, remembered only in whispers. There were also stories of books that could heal. A grimoire said to contain cures not found in the fields, not drawn from herbs, but from words themselves. If spoken with care, if written with precision, the words of the book could drive away fever, could mend broken bones, could call life back to one on the edge of death. The Church condemned such tales, for healing was said to belong to God alone. Yet when illness spread, when plague took entire families, people longed for such a book. Even if no one ever found it, the idea gave comfort, a fragile hope whispered in the dark. And then there were darker tales. Books said to contain instructions for summoning shadows, for commanding fire, for bending the will of others. Stories told of men who opened such volumes and were never the same. Their eyes grew hollow, their voices strange, their presence unsettling. They gained knowledge, but at a cost no one could measure. Some said these men had sold their souls, others said the books themselves had taken something, feeding upon the reader as the reader fed upon the words. Whether true or not, such stories lingered, heavy and slow, like the weight of a dream upon waking. The origins of these books were always mysterious. Some claimed they were written by scholars in the East, where knowledge was deeper, older, and more dangerous. Others whispered that fallen angels themselves had taught men to write them. A few believed they had no human author at all, that the books simply appeared, left on doorsteps, found in ruins, hidden in caves. However they came to be, once they appeared, they spread like shadows, moving quietly from hand to hand, from generation to generation. Imagine a nobleman's chamber, lit by torches flickering against stone walls. In a chest, hidden beneath silks and coins, lies a book bound in dark leather. The nobleman opens it only at night, when the castle is asleep. He turns the pages slowly, each symbol catching the light. He believes it grants him power, perhaps over his rivals, perhaps over fate itself. Yet when he closes the book, his hands tremble. He locks it away, but his thoughts cannot leave it. By day he smiles, he rules, he hunts. By night he listens for the book's whisper in the silence of his chamber. Or imagine a wandering monk, carrying a single book wrapped in cloth. He never shows it, never reads from it aloud, but guards it as though it were more precious than gold. At night, when he rests beneath the stars, he unties the cloth and looks upon its pages. He does not understand every word, but he believes it holds a secret worth guarding. When travelers ask what he carries, he only smiles and shakes his head. The book travels with him, silent, hidden, its secrets locked away. Legends told of one book above all, a book said to gather all others into itself, a grimoire of grimoires, a volume that contained every spell, every name, every secret. It was said that whoever possessed it could command the elements, speak with the dead, summon angels, bind demons, heal the sick, curse the living, and unlock the mysteries of the stars. Some called it the Black Book, others said it had no name. Its existence was uncertain, but the stories about it were endless. Each generation added new details. It was written in blood. It was bound in skin. It could only be read by the light of the moon. It vanished if shown to the unworthy. Whether true or not, the legend of the book grew larger than life itself. In monasteries, scholars debated quietly about such things. Could there be books beyond the sacred, books that touched upon the forbidden? Some argued that even if such books existed, they were traps, snares laid by the devil to lead men astray. Others whispered that hidden knowledge was still knowledge, and to destroy it was to destroy part of God's creation. And so, though they were condemned, some books were kept, locked in cupboards, sealed with wax, marked with warnings. Think now of a medieval scribe, alone in his cell, the candle burning low. He copies scripture by day, but by night he copies something else. Words that are not prayers, diagrams that are not crosses, symbols that seem to twist as they are drawn. His hand moves slowly, carefully, yet he feels watched. Not by his brothers, not by the abbot, but by the book itself. When he finishes, he closes it quickly, extinguishes the flame, and lies awake in darkness. The silence of the monastery surrounds him, but inside he hears the echo of the words he has just written. For the people of the Middle Ages, such stories blurred the line between real and imagined. Few had ever seen a grimoire, fewer still had read one, yet everyone knew someone who had heard of someone who possessed one. That was enough. The belief gave the books power, whether or not they existed. Fear itself became part of their presence. And so, in the stillness of night, in the flicker of candlelight, in the whispers of taverns and cloisters, the legends grew. The books lived not only on shelves, but in the minds of those who believed in them. And in the Middle Ages, belief was enough to shape the world. Now close your eyes and imagine a dark wooden table, a single candle burning, a leather-bound book resting open. The pages are filled with symbols you do not understand. You lean closer, and the letters seem to shift, the ink glistening as though still wet. You reach out your hand, but before you touch it, the candle flickers. The page turns by itself, softly, as though a breeze has passed. You pull back, your breath steady but deep. The room is silent, the night heavy. The book waits, but you do not touch it again. You let the candle burn lower, and slowly, gently, you close your eyes. The whisper of forbidden books was enough to stir fear, but fear alone was never quiet. In the Middle Ages, fear was shaped, given form, guided by those who spoke with authority. And none spoke louder, even in whispers, than the Church. By day, the Church was the center of life. Bells called the faithful to prayer, sermons filled the air with words of comfort, rituals bound people together. But by night, the Church's shadow reached further. It reminded people that danger was not only in hunger or sickness or war, danger could be hidden in words. Words written on pages not blessed, not holy, words that carried knowledge too sharp, too wild, too far from the safety of Scripture. Imagine a village church at dusk. The candles burn low, the priest speaks softly, warning his flock of books that are not meant to be read. He does not name them, he does not need to. Every listener fills the silence with their own fears. Somewhere someone may have a book that should not exist, somewhere someone may read what should not be read. The warning is enough. The people leave the church in silence, walking home under the weight of unseen danger. The church itself kept books locked away. The great libraries of monasteries held volumes of scripture, commentaries, histories, but in locked cupboards behind doors few were allowed to open, there were other texts. Some were ancient writings from Greece, from Egypt, from distant lands. Some were half-torn manuscripts filled with symbols. They were not read, not taught, but they were not destroyed either. To destroy was dangerous, some thought. To hide was safer. To let them sleep in silence was better than to burn them awake. Yet not all trusted silence. Inquisitors rose, men whose task was to seek out the dangerous, to name it, to root it out. They looked for witches, for heretics, for secret gatherings in the night. And they looked for books. A grimoire was evidence enough of guilt. Even if unread, even if unopened, its presence was seen as proof of sin. Imagine the knock at the door, heavy, slow. The villagers gather in silence as a man is led away, and in his home a book is found. It may only be a collection of notes, perhaps remedies, perhaps harmless words, but in the eyes of the inquisitors, it is more. It is a shadow turned into substance. Trials were long and quiet. In halls of stone, accused men and women were questioned. They were asked, "Where did you find the book? Who gave it to you? What words have you spoken from it?" Often the accused could not answer, sometimes because they knew nothing, sometimes because they feared to speak, sometimes because the questions had no answers. Yet the silence itself was enough to condemn. Picture such a trial now. A single candle burns in the corner. The inquisitor sits, his face half in shadow. Before him lies a book. Its cover is plain, its pages worn, yet to those present, it is no ordinary book. It has become the center of fear, the focus of judgment. The accused sits quietly, head bowed. Words are spoken, accusations made, prayers muttered. No voice rises loud, no outburst disturbs the calm, but beneath the silence lies the heavy weight of suspicion. The presence of forbidden books created a paradox. To denounce them was to admit they existed. To warn against them was to keep them alive in thought. And so the more the church condemned, the more the idea of grimoires spread. Farmers who had never seen such a book now imagined them. Children heard whispers of them in the marketplace. The very act of forbidding gave the forbidden life. And still some books escaped, hidden by travelers, protected by scholars, carried in secret from town to town. A few fell into the hands of nobles, who kept them as curiosities, treasures, not to be shown but to be known. Others passed through the hands of healers, their pages mixed with recipes, charms, blessings, curses. Each copy added small changes, errors, additions, so that no two were the same. They grew like shadows in the corners of Europe, changing shape as they moved, never still, never certain. The inquisitors knew this, and so their work never ended. They walked the roads, entered villages, questioned priests, listened for rumors. Where they found silence, they dug deeper. Where they found whispers, they listened longer. And always, the idea of the forbidden book traveled ahead of them, like a shadow leading the way. Now imagine the fear of an ordinary family. In their cottage, they own a book of prayers, given to them long ago. Its pages are worn, its cover faded, but because the father once added notes about planting, about healing herbs, about seasons, suspicion grows. Neighbors murmur, the inquisitor visits. The book, once a comfort, now lies heavy on the table, a weight of fear. The family does not sleep that night. They listen to the silence, wondering if the knock will come. Through such fears, the Middle Ages shaped themselves. Dark magic was not always seen, not always practiced, but the fear of it gave it power. And the books, whether they contained secrets or only silence, were at the heart of that fear. Think now of yourself walking once more through a monastery corridor. The air is cool, the torches burn low. At the end of the hall is a locked door. Behind it are shelves filled with books. Some are sacred, some are forbidden, but you cannot tell which is which. You hold a heavy key in your hand. You unlock the door, step inside. The smell of parchment fills the air, dry, ancient. You run your fingers along the spines. Each book is silent. Each book waits. You do not open them. You do not need to. Already their presence is enough. Already their silence is louder than any word. Close your eyes now. Picture the Inquisitor's candle flickering in the dark. Picture the trembling hands of a villager holding a book he cannot read. Picture the locked cupboards of the monastery filled with volumes never spoken of. Let these images soften, blur, fade. Feel your breath grow slower, calmer. The world of the Middle Ages drifts away, leaving only silence, only stillness, only rest. The world of the Middle Ages was never silent for long. Beneath the tolling of bells and the chanting of prayers, life continued with its small, steady rhythms. Fields were plowed, animals tended, fires kept burning. Yet always in the background there lingered the thought of books that should not exist, words that should not be read. And though fear was strong, it did not stop people from living their ordinary lives, lives that brushed gently again and again against the edge of mystery. And, as Book's pen and tilde very well note, it has not yet attacked, even in Central Europe. Mystery was still left for daydreaming. Lives that brush gently again and again against the edge of mystery. Imagine a healer, a woman living at the edge of a village. Her days are simple. She walks among the fields gathering herbs. She grinds roots into powders. She prepares teas to ease fevers or help with childbirth. To her it is not magic. It is knowledge, passed down through mothers and grandmothers, remembered in the lines of hands and the taste of leaves. Yet, in the eyes of others, her skill is uncertain. When her remedies succeed, she is respected. When they fail, suspicion arises. And if she writes her recipes down in a small book, the danger grows. For a book, in that time, was never just a book. It was a symbol, a weight, a whisper of something more. Picture her sitting by the fire one evening, her children asleep nearby. In her lap lies a small volume of rough pages, bound with string. She writes slowly, not with the elegance of a scribe, but with the steady hand of one who does not want to forget. She sketches the shape of a plant, notes the right season to gather it, records how it must be boiled, how long it must be steeped. To her, this is care, memory, preservation. But to others, the same book could appear as a grimoire, a collection of spells. And so she hides it when visitors come, sliding it beneath the straw mattress, where it rests in silence, waiting. There were scribes, too, whose work was to copy words. By day they bent over desks in monasteries, their quills scratching across parchment, reproducing the scriptures that gave light to the faithful. But in the margins, sometimes, other symbols appeared. Not curses perhaps, not spells, but small drawings, half-formed ideas, geometric figures that had no place in the holy text. Were they the idle marks of a tired hand, or were they glimpses of something else? Echoes of knowledge remembered, fragments of older writings passed quietly from one scribe to another? In the stillness of the scriptorium, no one asked. The symbols remained, silent among the sacred words, like shadows beneath the light. In villages, stories were told around the hearth. A grandfather might speak of a book he once saw in the possession of a traveling scholar, a book that glowed faintly when the firelight touched its pages. A child might whisper to her friends that a neighbor had a hidden volume under the floorboards, one that taught him to speak to animals. These were not always tales of fear. Sometimes they carried wonder, a spark of curiosity. For while the church warned of danger, the imagination of the people could not be bound so easily. What was forbidden was also fascinating. Markets were filled with the hum of voices, the clink of coins, the scent of spices. Among the stalls of cloth, of meat, of bread, there were sometimes sellers of books. Most were harmless, psalters, sermons, collections of prayers. Yet the idea lingered that one of those plain volumes might be something else, a book of secrets hidden in ordinary ink. A book whose words could not be read unless spoken at midnight. A book that looked ordinary until the right reader opened it. And so even in the noise of the market, a hush surrounded the thought of forbidden texts. Travelers carried tales further still. A merchant from the east spoke of volumes bound in strange materials, written in languages no one in the west could read. A wandering minstrel sang of a king who owned a book that gave him victory in battle. A pilgrim whispered of a monastery far away where books were chained to tables, not to prevent theft, but to keep them from moving by themselves. Each story added a new layer, a new shape to the mystery. Imagine now an ordinary villager sitting alone at night, his only book a Bible passed down through generations. He runs his hand across the cover, feels the weight of it. Yet in his mind, he cannot help but think of the other books, the ones whispered about, books that could heal, books that could curse, books that could summon. He has never seen one, yet he feels as though they surround him, hidden just beyond the edge of sight. He sighs, closes his eyes, and lets the thought drift away like smoke. The fire burns lower, the silence grows deeper, and sleep comes. The coexistence of fear and fascination shaped medieval life in quiet ways. A priest might warn of the dangers of magic, but keep an herbal remedy tucked into his own notes. A noble might denounce witches, yet consult a hidden book when illness struck his family. Even those who condemned often could not resist the thought of what might be contained in forbidden pages. The human heart, caught between devotion and desire, beat in rhythm with both prayer and curiosity. And so the books themselves became more than objects. They became mirrors, reflecting the fears and hopes of those who imagined them. To one, they were a source of healing. To another, a doorway to damnation. To another still, a promise of knowledge that should not yet be known. The books did not speak aloud, they did not move, but they lived in the minds of the people, carried not only on parchment, but in thought, in whisper, in dream. Now close your eyes and picture a medieval town at night. The streets are empty, the shutters closed, the fires within houses glowing faintly. Somewhere in one of those homes, a book lies hidden, its pages pressed between rough boards, waiting. It may never be opened, it may never be read, yet its presence alone shapes the silence of the night. The people sleep, their dreams filled with both light and shadow, with both prayer and fear, and in the quiet, the book remains, patient, enduring, mysterious. The Middle Ages slowly gave way to other ages, yet the shadows they cast never fully vanished. The centuries changed, the world changed, but the stories of dark magic and mysterious books lingered, carried forward like embers glowing quietly in ash. Even when people no longer lived in fear of witches at every corner, even when inquisitors' voices grew faint, the idea of forbidden words survived. Imagine the dawn of the Renaissance, when scholars sought knowledge in every direction. They opened old manuscripts, copied them, translated them, studied them. Ancient writings from Greece, from Egypt, from the East flowed into Europe once more. Curiosity grew bold, eager, unafraid. Yet still, in the corners of libraries, in the margins of thought, there were volumes people whispered about. Books that could not be explained. Books that carried an aura beyond reason. Some said these were remnants of the medieval grimoires, hidden through centuries, passed in secret, resurfacing when the world was ready or unready for them. In candlelit studies, men turned pages slowly, their eyes heavy with both hunger and caution. They spoke of philosophy, of alchemy, of the harmony of the cosmos. Yet in their hands sometimes lay books that promised more, not only understanding but control. The age of reason came, and still the whispers endured. People said such books could be found in dusty attics, in forgotten chests, in the locked cupboards of professors. They were said to teach how to summon shadows, how to command winds, how to see into the hidden layers of the world. Skeptics laughed, believers remained silent, and the books themselves, real or imagined, continued to hold their place in the imagination. Now imagine yourself walking through a modern library. The shelves stretch high, filled with volumes of every kind. The light is bright, the air calm, yet in a quiet corner, among rows that few visit, you find a book with no title on its spine. You slide it free, open it. The words are strange, symbols unfamiliar. It feels heavier than it should, the paper rough, the ink darker. You close it quickly, return it to its place. No one notices, no one asks. Yet you carry the weight of it with you as you leave, just as travelers centuries before carried their own silent burdens. The persistence of these stories tells something simple. People are drawn not only to light, but to shadow. The unknown calls, even when it frightens. The Middle Ages wrapped that unknown in leather covers, bound it with string, filled it with signs and names. And though time has carried us forward, the image remains. A book, hidden, a candle, flickering, words, waiting. Think of the power of silence itself. A forbidden book does not need to be opened to be feared. It does not need to be read to be remembered. Its very possibility is enough. In this way, the dark books of the Middle Ages became more than parchment. They became symbols, living quietly in the imagination. They reminded people that knowledge is never without weight, that words are never without consequence, that silence itself may hold more than sound. Close your eyes now and picture the long centuries. Picture the villagers locking their shutters. Picture the monks bending over parchment. Picture the inquisitors searching for hidden texts. Picture the noblemen guarding chests with keys kept close. Then picture the books themselves, wading through it all, patient, unmoved, silent. They outlasted the fears of the people, the condemnations of the church, the judgments of trials. They endured, whether real or imagined, as presences just beyond reach. And so they remain. Today we may not fear them as our ancestors did. We may call them legend, folklore, myth. Yet when we think of them, when we imagine a book that should not exist, a book that whispers in the night, we feel the same quiet shiver. We know, deep down, that the story of dark magic is not about spells written in ink. It is about the shadow within us, the part that longs for mystery even while it fears it. Now let the image soften. A medieval library. Candles burning low, shelves heavy with parchment. One book rests alone on a table, its cover plain, its pages closed. No one touches it, no one speaks of it, yet its presence fills the silence. You breathe slowly, deeply, as though you too sit in that quiet room. You feel the calm weight of centuries pressing gently, not with fear, but with rest. The inquisitors have faded, the inquisitors have gone, the villagers have passed, the monks sleep in graves long tended by moss and grass. But the books, the thought of them, still remain. And now they rest with you, not to frighten, not to disturb, but to remind you of silence, of stillness, of the calm endurance of the unknown. The candle burns low, the night grows quiet. The book waits, but you need not open it. You need not read. You need only breathe. Slowly, calmly, letting the silence of the centuries carry you deeper and deeper into sleep. The book remains, the silence remains, the night remains, and you, drifting on the edge of shadow and light, find rest.